Prosperity in Black America. What will this require? Is Black business prospering? Are we reaching women and minority-owned businesses? How do we achieve earning parity for wealth for our families? Do our children really have access to education? Will our families have choices for our children? Prison pipelines, mass incarceration, tearing our families apart. A healthcare system not accessible to the masses. The disproportionate termination of Black women from corporate America. When will we actually begin to address what's really at play? How do Black people gain more power to help make these changes? This requires a lot of political will and courage. I'm that provocateur of change. I am Cindi Bright. Welcome to HeartBeat. Welcome to HeartBeat, everyone. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're excited to be on air tonight and to be able to have one of our esteemed elected officials on with us this evening. Before I introduce her and before I introduce my co-host in, who she is and why we invited her here, I just kind of wanted to talk about something for a second. You know, we're watching every single day in the news the rights of women being taken away. I mean, at a pace that has taken us so many years to make advancement for. Now, you know, you look at some of these folks who have been promoted into these positions of power, all of these men that have been serving in these seats, and it has taken so much for those who step into this and want to make change, to advance and help all people, but particularly women's rights, the things that are happening on a national stage right now. And it's important for us to keep in mind that I think if you've been following a lot of my shows, we heard about many of the positions that are open up for election right now, for re-election here in Washington State. We have an opportunity to change the game in a lot of ways and to make even more progress here in Washington State. Now, it's my view, it's my belief. You hear me talking about women all the time. You hear me talking about Black women and brown women, because we have a brown woman on with us tonight who are out here fighting the fight on behalf of people. Now, I think it's just time, when you look at these positions, it's just time that we start helping and advancing and promoting and getting more women into these positions of power. You know, when I started this all out years ago, you all knew I came out of corporate America. And I've been very critical on some levels about corporations because of their lack of diversity progress, because they're not putting women into positions of power. And I used to struggle with the fact that there were not a lot of brown and Black women in these positions and in corporations. And so it forced a lot of brown and Black people to go into government sector, to have jobs, to be able to earn money and take care of our families. And I find it ironic now that, you know, for organizations who don't want us to be in their positions of power, we are now seeing more brown and Black women rise into positions of power. It's important because guess what, you know, this past week with the 34 convictions of the 45th person who got put into that seat of power and has ever since then done nothing but destroy women. Women have destroyed us. But now the people, he's, you know, filing an appeal. And now guess who's in the appeals court in in New York? Let's just take a look at this, right? These are the women that are there now who have a say-so over what's going to happen in this appeals process. We need women in these positions of power. Here in Washington State, one of the positions that is open is the Attorney General position. Now, we've had Bob Ferguson in that role. He comes very highly. I don't know him, but most people speak very highly of him, and he is now running for the governor for the state of Washington. It is expected that he will win, and when he does, his position is open, and we have a prime, wonderful candidate who has been serving in the Washington State Senate now, doing so much work on behalf of us, on behalf of women. And she is a candidate for the Attorney General's office. We want to talk with her this evening about her view and her vision for the Attorney General position. Before we introduce her in, let's introduce in co hosting with me this evening is Erin Jones. She's here with me this evening to talk. Good evening, Erin. How are you?
I'm tired. I'm good. Glad to be here, but I'm tired.
I know. What state are you in this evening?
I'm in Spokane this evening, but I've been in 5 states in the last 6 days.
Okay, I know. I saw you were on the road quite a bit, so I'm glad you're able to be here this night. Are you as excited as I am to have Senator Manka Dhingra on with us this evening? Let's welcome in the candidate for the Attorney General, Senator Manka Dhingra. Welcome back to HeartBeat. You've been on several times, and we are so grateful to have you on with us this evening to talk to us about yourself, about your work. You've done so much in the Senate. We want to hear about the work you've done in the Senate. We want to hear about what the Attorney General's office, I mean, I think most people have some idea about what it does, but I'd love to hear from you what it does and what you want to do when you get elected into that position. So welcome, and let's hear about your accomplishments and yourself and your campaign.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Hi, Erin. It's always such a pleasure to be on this show. It's just the energy and the empowerment I feel every time I speak to you wonderful ladies. It just fills my heart. So as you know, my name is Manka Dhingra. I'm actually the Deputy Majority Leader of the Washington State Senate. I've been a Senior Deputy Prosecuting Attorney with King County for 20 years, and I'm running to be the next Attorney General. And, I have really spent my entire career fighting for the people of Washington in the courtroom and in the state Senate, standing up for survivors of violence, women, immigrants, LGBTQI individuals. And, as a King County prosecutor, I was in that office for 20 years. I did a lot of work on domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking cases. I prosecuted gun crimes, hate crimes. And then I created the first in the nation therapeutic courts at the King County Prosecutor's Office, the therapeutic unit. And we were the second in the country to start our mental health court. I expanded it over the years. I helped create our veterans court and our diversion programs. And then, I actually helped develop the 40-hour crisis intervention training for law enforcement and trained at the Criminal Justice Training Commission for a decade before I stepped down to run for office, long before people really understood what crisis intervention was. And so I've been changing cultures my whole life because we know we cannot continue with the status quo. We need people who are bold leaders stepping up and changing cultures. And that's really why I am running to be the next Attorney General, to protect the people of Washington, no matter what you look like, how you identify, or where you come from. And over the last 7 years, I have played a pivotal role in delivering a lot of the major wins for the state of Washington. I have worked on and delivered on legislation protecting our voting rights, protecting and expanding access to reproductive rights, gender affirming care, including sponsoring the nation's strongest data privacy laws. And I was honored last summer to have been invited to the White House to present on My Health, My Data for other national leaders. I have worked on protecting our environment, protecting worker safety, expanding critical mental health access, including sponsoring legislation that has become the national model for a new 988 crisis system. And we now have the strongest protections for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault in the country. And it is this fight for justice, for standing up for people, for delivering real change to improve people's lives. This is really what motivates me to be the next Attorney General. And I can just say, I don't know any other person who has actually gotten an award from the NAACP.
I was gonna bring it up.
For their spirit of excellence in leadership and passion for justice and equity, and also been Legislator of the Year by Washington Council of Police and Sheriffs. And most people kind of look at that and go, how do you get both these awards from both of these organizations? You don't get it in the same year. But, it really is about how I show up to do the work that I do. If you are really focused on solving problems and delivering results, you can make sure that people all across the political spectrum respect the work that you do and are willing to collaborate with you to do that. And we know that our next Attorney General has to be a good litigator and a proven fighter. And I have been doing that my entire career, and that's what you're going to get from me.
What are some of the issues you want to take on as the Attorney General here?
The priorities will, of course, differ based on what happens in November. We know that our next Attorney General has to protect the rights of women, of LGBTQI individuals, of immigrants, of refugees, of workers. We have to fight for a safe and livable planet. We have to make sure that no matter where you live in the state of Washington, you're going to have access to healthcare. And so the priorities are really going to be different based on what happens in November. But, I ran for office after 2016 because I knew I had to stand up and make sure I'm doing everything I can to protect our state from what was happening with the Trump administration. The laws that I worked on, that I actually helped write and pass, are the same laws that the Attorney General's office will be in charge of enforcing to make sure that all Washingtonians are protected from whatever's going to come at us at the federal level. So I will be ready to go on day one. But I'm hoping things are going to go well in November because everyone's going to go out there and vote for Joe Biden. And so I'm going to mention 3 quick priorities that I have as Attorney General because things will be going well in November. Consumer protection is a huge priority for me. We need laws to keep up with technology and the very sophisticated manner in which all of us, especially our elderly, are targeted. And we need education and outreach into the communities so they know what their rights are and the role the Attorney General's office can play in protecting them. If you don't have government working for the people, then there really isn't a lot of point to government. And so to me, it is always about making sure that as Attorney General, the office is engaging with community so that they know what is happening in our communities. We have to make sure that Washington is leading the nation when it comes to personal identifying information, when it comes to cybersecurity, when it comes to fraud. I'm the only one that has passed a data privacy bill in the state of Washington. And that is a skill set I will bring to this job to make sure we are doubling down on consumer protection. I mentioned healthcare. Access to affordable healthcare is extremely important. We cannot have people going into bankruptcy due to medical debt, and we cannot have people in the state of Washington not being able to access good quality, affordable healthcare. We have healthcare deserts in the state of Washington, and that is completely unacceptable. And I don't have to tell the two of you what our maternal mortality rates are for Black women. We just cannot continue down this path. So as Attorney General, I will be taking a very close look at mergers and acquisitions all across the healthcare system, not just hospitals, but also insurance, pharmacies, pharmacy benefit manager. I'm the only candidate that has a background in healthcare because I've spent the last 7 years on the healthcare committee working on making sure we have good quality healthcare available to everyone from the top of our heads all the way down to our toes, because you got to do integration with mental health, substance use disorder. And we need healthcare from the day we're born to our last days on our planet. And so this is really a critical thing that the AG's office must really be focused on. The third thing I'll mention is protecting our environment. Protecting our environment is actually very personal to me. Many people may not know this, but I was actually born in Bhopal, India. And my father worked at the Union Carbide gas plant. And I remember as a young child actually waking up in the middle of the night because he had to go to that plant because there were problems there. And he would complain all the time about safety violations, and he wasn't taken seriously. He ended up resigning, and 2 years later, at the age of 40, he died of colon cancer. And my mom became a widow at the age of 33 and had 2 young children. And that's when she moved to this country so that my brother and I could have a better life. And so for me, making sure we have clean water, clean air, that we have soil without lead, where we don't have cancer clusters, is really important. Our next generation has to be healthy. And we are seeing our children with asthma rates that are so high, with allergies that we've never seen before. And so it is really about making sure that we're holding our polluters accountable. And so it really is this commitment to justice, proven leadership, and a history of delivering on the toughest issues is what I bring to this job.
we're really happy to hear that, Senator. We had Senator Cooter on recently because she is running for the insurance commissioner. So, how wonderful would it be to have her as the insurance commissioner and you as the attorney general taking on this whole issue? I mean, I loved your three topic areas. I'm particularly of interest on the women's health care. I'll talk more about that later on the show. I have some things I want to talk to our audience about. You have, I'm not going to say who they are, but we have brown and black legislators who are sick right now. And looking at statistics around, brown and black women's health care is significant right now. It feels like it's almost out of control when you look at the rate of cancers and things that are happening to people. How do you see when we listened to Senator Cooter talk about? Maybe I'm just trying to ask trying to instill some hope, because I'm trying to hold on to some hope that we are close to, finding cures for things and ensuring that we can get, is it a single payer healthcare system? Like, what is it that we are going to try to tackle to make sure that people have access and that they get quality care?
I actually have done a lot of presentations and been on a lot of panels nationally when it comes to access to healthcare. And we have so much work to do in Washington. But when I talk nationally about this issue, I can tell you people all across the country are so impressed with what Washington is doing. We have one of the lowest uninsured rates in the country. It's still not enough because we still have people who are uninsured. I am very excited about Senator Cruder running for insurance commissioner, because she and I absolutely will be partnering in making sure that people all across the state have access to the healthcare they need when they need it. I also am the only candidate that has spent time in the legislature. And then you take a look at my endorsement page, I have nearly all the endorsements from our Democratic representatives and senators. And I have a great working relationship with Bob Ferguson. So we really are in a place in our state that if or when I win, that we actually have people who have that relationship and trust with each other, where we can really deliver big wins. But we
Let's
got to make sure we're chugging along and making sure everyone has access to healthcare.
let's have a look at some of your endorsements, because we were looking at those today just to be able to share through. Let's slow down. Let's start back at the top to my producer here. Let's start over and slow it down a little bit. Okay. Some of these different organizations, Emily's list, some of the women's organization, many of the districts, the legislative districts. Can we slow that down a little bit, Sam? So can we start that over again? And I just want to be able to see them. Okay. National Women's Caucus, One America Votes, the 12th, the 33rd, the Labor Council, and then many of the elected officials. Look at how many of the folks are there, and community. Wow. Was there any endorsements left for any of your opponents?
Well, I will say there are some people that did a dual endorsement, but there are many who did the sole endorsement. And I am so honored by so many of the sole endorsements that I have. I have the sole endorsement of One America, Washington Can, the nurses, our public employees, the Boeing machinists, the King County Young Dems, the UW Young Dems, our LGBTQI Democratic Caucus. So it is humbling, and I'm just so honored to have a lot of these sole endorsements plus the dual endorsements. But to me, that is what this campaign is all about. I am not the political establishment. I don't come from a politically connected family or from politics, right? I ran because I think we need leaders who believe in honesty and integrity, who are willing to stand up and do the right thing, not what's politically convenient. That's why I ran in 2017. I have had the career that I'm very proud of as a senior deputy prosecuting attorney. To me, this running for the Senate and now running for the Attorney General is really about stepping up to make sure that we are changing the manner in which government shows up for people. It has to be driven by the people. Government has to be responsive to the needs of the people. And I think the culture has changed. Recently, people expect problem solving from the government. They expect government to engage with people. They expect them to listen with humility and with a sense of solving problems. And that is what I've been doing for the last 7 years, and that is what I will continue to do. You will continue to get someone who's a champion for working people, someone who does not back away from doing what's right, and someone who is never going to take the politically convenient road, because running for Attorney General is not simply a stepping stone for higher office for me. It is really about making sure I do the job of the Attorney General.
So I want to give you a shout out because, of course, you know this, but I want to let the people know that Manka has come to my classroom, which is just so great. Like how many candidates are willing to show up on a Monday night to a class. And I just want to invite you, Manka, to share about your regular connections to young people and how you plan to continue to listen to the voices of our youngest people in the state.
When people say the youth are our future, they're literally our future. And people say that, but they don't do much on it. But I'm someone who is always engaged with the youth. When I ran in 2017, my kids were in 7th and 9th grade. And I was an involved parent. I actually used to coach Destination Imagination team. I used to be their chess coach and their math coach. And so when I decided to run for office, I actually had to tell these young people that I'm not going to be able to be the mom who makes all the brownies and the cookies and has them over because I'm running for office. And they said, can we help? And so I had a teen campaign committee event at my house before my campaign manager was hired. We had 30 kids show up. I only knew about half. And so the year in 2017 and 2018, because I had to run twice, we had a teen campaign committee where we engaged 150 youth. And it wasn't just about engaging them so they could volunteer for me. It was about making sure that they got the experience they wanted, that they were in spaces that weren't traditionally open for them, that they got to meet and network with people that they didn't have access to. And every year in the Senate, I have introduced at least one, if not multiple bills that have been brought to me by the youth. And they care about so many issues. So the reason why we have menstrual products that are provided in schools and colleges for free, youth in my district. We don't pay taxes on menstrual products, youth in my district. We now have bleed kits that are available in all our schools, youth in my district. But what was amazing is I dropped that bill and the U.S. trauma surgeons called me and said, Senator, we want to partner on this bill. So that bill, I had our under 25 and our trauma surgeons advocating on that bill. And so the bill signing was at the UW because the surgeons wanted to be present. And we had like this young kid who was just starting at UW there with our trauma surgeons. And he's like, I want to go into medicine. And it was just this amazing connection. So we have our youth campaign committee because I always engage with the youth. We have 70 that are already volunteering and interning for me. And these kids, sorry, I am a mom, so I can call them kids, even though they're young adults. They just inspire me so much and they make me so optimistic for the future. Because when you give them an opportunity to show up and give them space where they can share their thoughts, they flourish. And so that's why I'm so honored to have the sole endorsement of the Young Dems of King County and the UW Young Dems and Western Washington Young Dems. But to me, it is about making sure that they have a voice. And not just a voice, but you got to listen. You got to listen with openness and humility to truly learn. And I'm going to have a community advisory council as Attorney General, because that is how you make sure you stay connected to community. And there's absolutely going to be a youth position on that board so that we can continue engaging with the youth and hearing from them.
Well, I can vouch for that, Senator, because I don't know if you remember, but you were in front of me in the parade, one of the 4th of July parades in 2018. And I was all of these kids. And I remember saying, who are all those kids that are here in the parade? And then they had your signs. And I'm like, who? So, shout out to you for that, because I remember that was one of my observations of you when I first met you, that you were really tapping into younger folks and making sure that you were hearing their voice. And they were and I'm not talking 5 kids.
Oh, yeah.
There was like 50. I mean, it was like this huge crowd of young, I keep saying kids, they were, like you said, young adults, but I was a little stunned to see that. So I should have had, I have a picture I've never showed you. I have a picture with you and I and those kids, by the
Yes.
way, because it was aimed at taking a photo of me, but I just want to vouch for you for that because I did see that my firsthand.
That's great. It's hashtag Manka's Army. That's what they
It
call
is an
themselves.
army. Yeah. What can you share with us about, do you have opponents in this race? Where, what is it you want to say? Like, why do you feel you are better suited for this role than your opponents? Anything you want to say in that regard?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I do have 2 opponents. We have a Republican who's an extreme MAGA Republican, not someone who really is rational, unfortunately. And so we're not too worried about him. And then I have a Democrat in the race, Nick Brown. Um, nice man, intelligent, very capable of doing the job. But I think the 2 things that sets us apart, I'll say, is one that to me, this is not a stepping stone for higher office. It's very clear that that is what this is for him. I really am committed to doing the job of the Attorney General. And the second thing that sets us apart is I've had a long career of leading, working on tough issues, and delivering results. And people have seen me do that over and over again. I just simply haven't done the job I was paid to do, like my other opponent. And to me, this is a political job. This is not an appointed job. It is a political job for a very specific reason. And so you need people who have that long history of leading and delivering, and that is what you're going to get from me.
So successful, accomplished results that you have delivered, only woman in this actual race, deserving of being voted into that position, as far as I'm concerned. I like how you, right? I liked how you stated it, that you're not doing it as a stepping stone. You have been in the Senate for several years. You have many bills I looked at. I was going to try to list them, and then I started to try to print them, and I ran out of ink because of all your bills that you have sponsored. And I'm saying that because, I do think that's, if you heard how I started the show, the difference between, women who get shit done. I mean, Senator Cooter will tell you I say that at almost every event I'm at with her. When you're getting results done, those are worthy of moving into the next position and well deserved. And so we're hoping that our audience or that your constituents across the state will see your worthiness for this role as well. And it's just time that we put a woman into this position. It's just time.
Thank you so much for that, Cindy. I really do appreciate that. And just to kind of add to that, I have 22 awards for the work that I've done nationally and locally and regional. So it's not just that, the people here and there who talk about my work, like it's nationally recognized work. And we as women just don't just really talk about a lot of our accomplishments. But I'll give you an example from just this last session. It was a 60-day session. Most people get like 2-3 bills passed. I was running for statewide office, and so I had told my office that I'm not going to be, sponsoring a lot of bills. I ended up sponsoring 12 bills. I don't do easy bills. These were tough bills on trafficking, sexual assault, creating 23-hour crisis relief centers for our youth, having a gun bill. I got all 12 passed. All 12 were bipartisan. Even my gun bill. That one surprised me. But my Republican colleagues, after I was done speaking on the floor, they voted for that bill. And afterwards they said, they trust the work that I do because I don't play politics. I solve problems. Mm-hmm. And so they voted for it based on my floor speech. My sexual assault bill, we lowered the age of consent for forensic examinations to the age of 13 because we are seeing more sexual assaults happening in high schools now than ever before. And my Republican colleagues in the beginning didn't even want to sign on to that bill because of that age of consent issue. They voted for it on the floor because I had very honest conversations with them. I said, this is the problem we're trying to solve, is that our young girls need the medical attention and they need that evidence collection at the time the incident occurs. And I said, the first instinct a child has when they're hurt is to run to their parent. And if they're not going to their parent, there's a problem there. And frankly, the only person that was benefiting from this law was the rapist. And we had these honest conversations, and I told them, I said, if you can think of another solution to solve this problem, I want to hear about it. And they couldn't figure it out, so they voted for the bill. And that is how we get the work done. And this is the skill set that I bring to the job. 12 bipartisan bills in a short session.
Erin, did you have any more?
No, I love Sara. I love you. It's just so great to hear your brilliance. And one of my favorite students worked for Senator Dhingra this year, and I'm just so happy that this young man from a very white town, got to work with you and bear witness to your brilliance, and it's really shaped him in such a positive way that I am excited for whoever gets to work with you and for us as a state.
Thank you so much for that, Erin. It truly is inspiring to engage with the youth over and over again. And it is incredible to actually hear from them after a year or so and just kind of hear their reflections. So thank you for sharing.
We are just so thrilled, Senator. We are rooting you on here. We want to make sure we highlight our sisters out there who are doing the work. Our constituents deserve, when you talk about youth and the issues that you're taking on, we deserve to have representation that mirrors us, that looks like us, and that actually gets results, gets things done. You've got a proven record of doing that. And so we are thrilled that we were able to highlight you today. And for our audience who wants to help donate to Senator Dhingra's campaign, I believe it's electmanka.com.
It is electmanka.com. And this is the time to donate. So I would encourage everyone to do so. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming forward and talking to us. So we'll be following your campaign, and we'll look forward to celebrating with you in November. Let us know if there's anything more we can do to support you, Senator. Thank you for coming on HeartBeat with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be here. And I'll just tell everyone, vote, vote, vote. Thank
vote,
you.
Vote, vote. All right. You have a good evening. Okay. I love my job when I do this, when it's this, when we get to do this. It's so awesome to be able to have someone of her pedigree here, and her humility, and the fact that she's getting a lot of things done for us. And it's really important, I think. People have said to me, Cindy, are you bringing her opponent on? And I don't know him. I have nothing against him, but I know her. And I've seen what her results are. And so worthy of opportunity to put her into a position like that and let her go to work. We need her, right? We need her. We need people who are not using this office as stepping stones to, as she put it, to get into higher political positions. Isn't that the problem we're all facing in this country, is that we don't have, and once they get in, we can't get them out. And so we need her. I just feel very strongly about that. And what a dynamic duo she will be with Senator Cooter. They both win. I think the state doesn't have any idea what's about to happen if both of these women get in office. And we need to ensure that, and particularly because there are so many other things happening across the country this week, Erin, I wanted to talk about this evening also. Because for the progress that we're trying to make, there's still so many hurdles in the way. Yeah. And so even though she mentioned that we're doing good here in Washington State, did you catch the what's going on with the setback on the venture capital money and the Fearless Fund? Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah, I saw that happen. I mean, I knew that was going to happen weeks ago. Just even the ladies knew this was going to happen weeks ago. They suspected. It's just so gross. I mean, Blum, whatever his name is, Ed Blum, who's been the one seeking to destroy all things that benefit Black folks. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's made it his mission to just destroy all things. The affirmative action case, and now this case.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does he need to use all his energy and power to destroy? I mean, when he could be using that to benefit so many people.
I mean, it just keeps illustrating and emphasizing the need to put women in office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't get the right women, let me say the right women, right, elected into office, who are willing to go toe to toe and fight for these things, um, we're just scaling back at too quick of a pace.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen with the? I mean, I debated whether to show the photo of the New York Appeals Court, but I just feel like there's too many givens when these guys get into these positions of power, and you can't dismantle it. You can't even unseat a criminal, like,
Yeah,
right?
it's freaky to me that somebody who cannot vote is able to be elected to the highest office of this country. That like blows my mind right now. I just can't comprehend that. Yeah, and looking at the women who would be, and so I've heard a couple of different things. I've heard that that's an image of the women who will actually have to look at his appeal, but I've also heard that there are other people who are not Black who also could be part of that conversation. But here's what someone said the other day that really struck me. So there was a Fox analyst that said right away, yeah, look at this picture of these women. Do you think he's going to get a fair shot if these are the women? And then someone responded on TikTok and said, yeah, and y'all are the same ones who say race doesn't matter, but it does now, because now
Yes,
you're already making
exactly.
these Black women and how they're gonna,
Yes.
right. So you do see color. You do see color.
Right.
Those.
And it proves that they know that systemic racism exists. Because if they are so afraid of five Black women, which they should be, because when look, the right thing is going to get done. And when you see, I'm including Senator Dhingra in this conversation too. When you see those who are willing to go up against the establishment, and, like when she was describing, talking to the Republican counterparts and said, okay, well, if you don't like this, then what's your proposed solution? Well, they don't have one, right? So it's always, let's attack, let's criticize, let's tear it down, let's take away, that whole Fearless Fund. I had jotted down some numbers on it, but I mean, the billions of dollars that go to white men for their startup businesses, or for their organizations and their businesses, compared to, what was it, like 2%? Well, I
Yeah,
mean, it was like next to
or less,
nothing,
than that.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, just scraps, and they're still trying to take that away. And when you think about, just as a country, when you look at the data around the fastest growing small businesses, they're being started and built and run by Black women. What what is going to happen in this country if we don't fund and help those businesses to grow and thrive? Like, you can't just think that you can just kill it, and like you're killing. Yeah, I just
Well, I
the
think it's back to the anti-critical race theory movement. I think people are looking for opportunities to blame us. So we're going to take away stuff and then tell you you're just not working hard enough. And say that race has nothing to do with it. That it's race neutral. We're race neutral. So all of this race stuff doesn't matter. And yet, like, we still have to work 10 times harder. This in running for office. For us to get funding for candidacy, for political races, is so much harder than for white women or for white men, period. Black women have the hardest time raising money for their political candidacy, which is no different than for a business. I'm watching my friend in Tumwater try to raise money for a cultural center. She's been fighting hard for 3 years to raise money, can't get a dime from anybody, because she doesn't have all the infrastructure she needs. She doesn't have a research base that can prove the data. But guess what? We don't have that stuff because we don't have the resources, right? So it's this weird, you have stuff to prove that you're good enough, but we can't afford to fund the stuff to prove that we're enough. That's
Mhm.
frustrating.
Mhm. Did you happen to catch, I assume it's no, because I know you're busy as can be because it just came out today, and I could only watch the first few minutes of it because my stomach started churning watching it. It was the Don Lemon show today, and he was talking about with some guy, I didn't recognize the guy's name, um, but this guy was talking about this whole issue is being talked about the Fearless Fund and you got to listen to it. And to our audience, you just have to listen to what people really think that like it's such an advantage to be Black now because we're getting all the money and there's so much highlight on Black and brown issues that now everybody's scared and they're writing the check. But yet the data shows just the
It's
opposite. And
not
so
happening.
Dawn, right? So Dawn was like, and so they got into it, and I was like, just the sheer that we have to listen to that people actually believe that
Yep.
because when they see us doing something to help each other, right? If you see us doing something, I mean, again, part of this show's mission is to highlight and help give a platform and a voice because we're not we don't have they don't give us that, right? If you go any place else. I mean, I started to tell the senator a story before we ran out of time before the show, but I've been criticized when I was with some different organizations doing this show by uh, white women who was really pissed off. It was when Nikita was running,
Yeah.
and because we gave this platform to Nikita, and she just felt very strongly that she should be given the platform too. And so I remember getting the phone call and I'm like, no, like, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because this is about equity. And so when you think about the fact that we're not, the fundraising is harder, these candidates have to pay for other things to be able to come, all the different things to have it. If I have it and I'm able to give it to help her, why would I not do that? And I'm not going to do it equally. I'm going to do it equitably, which means she gets the airtime. She
Yeah.
gets, right? So these are the kind of things that, again, why, if people are not in positions to have the impact happen to them, are they going to fight as hard? I believe I'm just going to say I apologize to my male viewers who are watching the show, but I just think that these positions of power should be filled by women. The women will get the things done. They are more likely to be able to not just give a good narrative and talk a good political game, but they actually get shit done. You can see it by their records. Those are the people we need in. Period.
When
Period.
I am a believer that we just need diversity, period. And I believe women on any team make that team more productive, period. And there are
Mm.
just way too many men in positions of authority at every stage of everything, every stage in education, every stage in healthcare, every stage in government. And I think
Mhm.
part of the reason we make really bad decisions as a country is we don't have enough women who are providing that different perspective, that different lived
Mm.
experience, that like we've had to raise children and have jobs. We've had to juggle multiple things at a
Mhm.
time. You need our voices at the table, and too often we see men as stronger. We as a culture, as an American culture, see men as stronger and naturally vote for them without even like interrogating their background or making sure that they have the qualifications or they've passed a bill. I mean, I love that she was able to list out all the bills that she was able to accomplish, the stuff that she has done. I think that is so
Mhm.
critical, but we need that diversity of perspective. And right now, when you look at the executive roles in our state, it's predominantly male. So
Mhm.
we need more women in those roles because men can't do it by themselves.
Mhm.
That's,
I really agree. The whole, when she talked about healthcare, you heard me mention there's even women in the legislature who are sick right now. And just to watch how they work, right? Like they're working like horses,
yeah,
even though arguably they should be off work right now, tending to their health. But, women, particularly women of color, know that we have to be there to be that voice in order to move things the direction. And so it's my view that we can't have another guy in another position of power. We need somebody who is actually suffering, sacrificing, like sweating, or doing my three
Understand.
S's I use often, right?
Who understands
Yeah,
it. That's
who
that's
understands it.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And it's not,
Just to
go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Erin.
No, I was going to say, back to the whole Ed Blum and the venture capitalists and affirmative action, just all the stuff that he's destroying. It's back to a conversation I had with some white leaders at a high school in Washington State last year. One of the white leaders had this revelation at the end of a 3-day training that I did with young people. And he said, "Oh my gosh, Erin, I realized for the first time today why we need more girls and more people of color on student councils." He said, "It's not because we just need their bodies, we need their perspectives and their lived experiences."
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the thing that so many white people and men get wrong. Sometimes by intention, they get it wrong. It's not just about the checklist. We don't just need women just to say we have women. We need the voices of women who have experienced all of that stuff. And I think, especially for Black and brown women, the expectations for us are so high that we do work ourselves harder, because every time we fail just a tiny bit, suddenly we are destroyed. White men and the white men watching, you may hate me for this, but this is my lived experience. And it's what I'm witnessing, what we are witnessing as a country right now. White men can get away with literally with murder. They can get away with 34 counts, felony counts, and still just get back up and move on as if nothing happens. Imagine if President Obama had one felony. Imagine if he had one felony, and yet this man can have 34 felonies and raise more money in this last week than he's raised all year.
And I think it's important to highlight that his issue, I've continued to say this, what's gone on with him and many other issues that are going on in the country is, I feel like it's a divine revealing to the rest of the world. Trump's behaviors and all the things that you're talking about, it goes on everywhere. It's not just him. It's not just his, to your point about what they get away with. They do get away with murder. There are, again, why I emphasize why we really need women in these positions. Now, the right women, I'll rephrase that, because they are not held accountable. You can see it in the Washington State legislature. Hello, I mean, we talk about it every now and then. You can see, Ross Hunter. I continue to, because you can Google it and read about what's going on with him. He still has a job. Why? So you get to look at double standard, like all of that goes on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other, the whole other issue around healthcare too, aside from how close and personal it is to me these days, I'm watching many other brown and Black women who are suffering. And it just seems like it's happening everywhere. So we see Representative Sheila Jackson Lee out of California. If our audience isn't paying attention, she's an elected official. We have a quick clip. We'll just show this really quick about her and her announcement about her health.
Breaking news tonight. Less than an hour ago, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee revealed she has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The last time we saw the Congresswoman in Houston was at a Memorial Day event. Jackson Lee says as she goes through treatments, it's likely she will be occasionally absent from Congress. Now, in a statement to her constituents in the 18th District tonight, Congresswoman Jackson Lee said in part, quote, "Serving as your representative in Congress for 30 years is one of my greatest honors. Your hopes and aspirations inspire my efforts on behalf of our community every day," end quote. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Congresswoman tonight as she starts her treatment.
Our thoughts and prayers are with Representative Jackson Lee. There's also another one that just really hit me really hard. I don't know if you follow who Sara Sidner is on CNN.
By doing this and asking you a big favor, just take a second to recall the names of 8 women who you love and know in your life. Just 8. Count them on your fingers. Statistically, one of them will get or have breast cancer. I am that 1 in 8 in my friend group. I have never been sick a day of my life. I don't smoke. I rarely drink. Breast cancer does not run in my family. And yet here I am with stage 3 breast cancer. It is hard to say out loud. I am in my 2nd month of chemo treatments and will do radiation and a double mastectomy. Stage 3 is not a death sentence anymore for the vast majority of women. But here is the reality that really shocked my system when I started to research more about breast cancer, something I never knew before this diagnosis. If you happen to be a Black woman, you are 41% more likely to die from breast cancer than your white counterparts. 41%. So to all my sisters, Black and white and brown out there, please, for the love of God, get your mammograms every single year. Do your self-exams. Try to catch it before I did. Now, here's something I could never, ever have predicted would happen to me. I have thanked cancer for choosing me. I'm learning that no matter what hell we go through in life, that I am still madly in love with this life. And just being alive feels really different for me now. I am happier because I don't stress about foolish little things that used to annoy me. And now every single day that I breathe another breath, I can celebrate that I am still here with you. I am here with my co-anchors, my colleagues, my family, and I can love and cry and laugh and hope. And that, my dear friends, is enough.
Why we need women to fight for other women. It's so devastating. We are going to be doing a show here soon on brown and Black women's healthcare in general. But you heard the statistics about the percentage of death for brown and Black women. And we live under so much stress.
Yeah.
What you were just talking about, Erin, about how hard we have to work, how hard we have to fight, while they get away with murder. It's humbling, isn't it?
I was just on a call with a really great friend of mine who is one of the most phenomenal educators I know, is also a Black woman. And she was almost in tears and said, I just want to quit. I'm so exhausted with having to fight for our Black students. She said, I'm just so exhausted. I'm so exhausted by the lack of support that I get. I'm so exhausted by having to live in my skin, but also fight for all these young people who don't have advocates. And, 2 weeks ago, as I was walking, I came across the swastika sign and that we love the KKK. 2 weeks before that, I was called the N-word. Yeah, it's exhausting. It's exhausting just being in the skin. And then I think the thing that is so gross is then to hear from people, oh, but I don't see color. Erin, why are you making this about color, Erin? I don't see color. I'm like, well, it's really lovely for you that you don't see color, that you don't have to see color, that you have the privilege that you can walk through life and not ever have to think about that. It's really nice. That is not our reality.
It's not. Whew, it's a lot. I don't know. It's just feel, I'm looking forward to July 11th to see what the judge will do or whether he will do the right thing, right? He's got a lot to contend with in terms of his family. Like everyone's running scared. Isn't that pathetic that people are running scared? But look, we got to change. That will be a very telling decision, right? That he makes about what he does in that situation, because we have, I believe the Fani Willis, is that her whole bringing charges against him is basically frozen right now. She's
Right.
being frozen out of her ability to prosecute. But thank God we have a woman like her in office who's willing to fight, right? Who's willing to stand up. We need those kind of women. We need, And yet we need to take breaks in all of this too. Sometimes, I mean, I kind of checked out this past week because I got to be with my grandson, but um, it's hard. It's hard to watch all of this going on around us. And when I scroll through my feed, the only people I see out here trying to help change the world are women that look like you and me, Erin, right? Like that are out trying to make sure we help get other people elected. We help raise money for them. We help make sure all hands on deck for, because this election and I think here in Washington State, we should not take it for granted.
Yep.
Yes, the state is considered progressive. Yes, we are better than other parts of the country, and still we
Yep.
need, we need healthcare for everybody. We need, I mean, my view, we need a universal income. Like we need ways to protect, because the people who are being disproportionately impacted are women that look like us.
Yeah. You know, my invitation to the watchers today who are Black women is make sure that you're putting the mask on yourself before you go out and help people. I got a massage today. I haven't been home since last Wednesday. I've been in 4 states and done, I can't even think of any presentations in the last week and a half. But I went and got a massage today. I went and got my eyebrows waxed. I went for a run. Like, put the mask on yourself first before you go out. For those of you who are not Black women, I want to encourage you, if you're watching the show, to figure out how you can pour into a Black woman tomorrow. Be thinking about that tonight. Be thinking about that. Whether that is sending a friend a gift card to Massage Envy, or a card to their favorite coffee shop, or offering to babysit their kids for an afternoon. Like, don't just watch the show and then do nothing different tomorrow. Like, find some small way to invest in a Black woman that's in your world. And maybe you don't even know this Black woman. Buy some flowers for the Black woman that works in the janitorial staff in your building. Just give her some flowers and say, hey, I see you. Like, do something small tomorrow. Take a step tomorrow. Don't, I think we get so caught up in thinking, well, I don't have a lot of money to invest. So start with something little then. Start with, like, don't keep making excuses for why you're not doing more. And watching the show is just step one. You got to actually do something. Put some feet, put some dollars, put some time, put some energy into supporting the Black women around you.
Thank you for saying that, Erin. You know, I wanted to share as we close the show out this evening. One of our regular co-hosts is also Stephanie Coverson, who's on every week. She's traveling to Chicago tonight, so she couldn't be with us. But, you know, Stephanie and I have been working on a project, and we just launched a website called Sis Know Your Worth. So it's sisknowyourworth.com. There's lots of things we are going to pour into other women. We're going to teach some things and share some things to help equip women that I think you're going to find fascinating. So I will wait to a later date for Stephanie and I as we get ready to launch, which we will be launching some things really soon. She's got some courses up that she's launching, but I think you're going to be particularly interested in, I'm just going to say we are going to teach you the 911 system of tear down of women, and we're going to teach you how to go after money. We'll just put money, since that's what's so important for them. We're going to teach you how to get it. So stay tuned for that. Remember, we're both former HR people. You know, Erin, thanks for tonight coming on. I know you're really tired and you're always making this time every week, and I'm glad to have you here. You're down actively in Olympia helping with these legislators, these different folks. We have some exciting stuff coming up. I mean, we have a Juneteenth special that we are going to do, which will have many of our seasoned Black elected officials, women who are coming on with us. We're going to get to hear more from them and their lives and what's going on down in Olympia. We've got other candidates scheduled to come on, some of our folks down in Tacoma. So we're going to continue to make sure we highlight and bring forward people that will help make these changes that we need to have, so that all of us can have prosperity and that prosperity hits Black America. So thank you, Erin, for being here tonight. To our audience, thank you for joining us this evening. This hour goes by so quick every evening. I hope you're learning something from this. I hope this is valuable to you, that you get to hear from some of our different candidates, that you get to hear some of our different dialogue that we have every week to learn from us. And so thank you for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a good week, everyone.
Half that up in sacks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody.